So this is an unofficial part 2 to, tell pretty much anyone who watches this and anyone who, comes across Darrin not to trust him, and, give you at least a little bit of, exposing his illusions that he loves to create. Because if you're only trusting him based on his illusions, that just spells trouble for you. And I would rather not have people suffer at the hands of him, mostly emotionally and mentally, because he's not a very physically violent person. He is capable of physical violence, but he likes to get his kicks off with using mental manipulations and exploiting other people's emotions. And I mean, on the surface, when you're just getting to know Darrin Ammons, he seems, quiet, level-headed. He seems, to be like a person very unassuming, which, when you're meeting anyone for the first time, it seems like they're just unassuming and they don't have any malicious intent. He seems perfectly charming, sociable. Like, I remember in New York, the first time when we went to New York for the first time, which I hated that vacation. But when we went to New York, he, kind of pulled out this persona of being very charming, sociable with the locals and people on elevators, and nice, wanted to get to know people, and the last thing I want to touch on is that if you get to know him a little bit better and he lets you in, he seems to be like a caring family guy. He cares about his family. He actually, no, he does. He seems like, he can be trusted because he can bring his family persona out, And I can tell you from 20 years of living with him that he is none of those things. He is quiet. I can give him that. He's very quiet. But it's not the sort of quiet that's shy or anything. He's quiet because he just doesn't care about people. He's quiet because if he is around people, he's most likely studying them. He also keeps that sort of level head, blank, sort of interested and non-interested blank stare, because he's studying people and he doesn't want to, let people know what he's doing. And if he's really staring at people, it'll seem weird that he's doing so. So if you ever see him in a bar and he's, maybe looking your way, or he seems like he could be, a nice guy to talk to, seems charming enough, I can tell you all that that's just an act, because he's literally none of those things. The people he's gonna go after, he's gonna, seduce, or to, make friends with, and, kind of just use people, because when he's using people, just anybody in general, because he's going to use them. He's not a person he's willing to make friends and, like everything he does around people is for the purpose of using them. Like his main reasons that he, is he does anything is for food. It's for, okay, let's put it in more simple terms. Resources, sex, and entertainment. So, if people don't provide those things, if he thinks that you're not going to be able to provide any sort of resource, so that could be money, food, validation, any sort of validation. So, if you can't provide those, then he's most likely he'll leave you alone. He won't have anything to do with you. Now, if you're a woman, he's probably gonna check you out and see if he's gonna probably dive a little bit deeper into your psyche, into your history, and see if you're, if he can manipulate you and use you for either, again, food, resources, or if he deems you to be attractive enough, or maybe he doesn't even think you're attractive, but he thinks he can, sleep with you at least once, like sleep with you a little bit, and then he'll probably discard you because he's not into commitment. Any sort of commitment he makes is going to be for those, 3 things that he wants, that he's trying to get. So he's not committing to you as a person. He's committing to having resources, having sex. But if you're not gonna be able to, if you can't bring in resources, he's probably not gonna keep you around long enough. He's probably gonna have sex with you and then, discard you because you're not gonna bring in entertainment or resources. Now, entertainment-wise, that's a little bit darker and a little bit messed up. Entertainment-wise, he's probably gonna use you if let's say you have money. If you can bring in money and bring him in, like status or anything like that, like bringing into parties to, have social interactions with other people. So, bring him to parties, drinking. He is a drinker, which I'm not saying drinking is bad. Drinking is it's totally fine. I don't care. Drink if you want. Drink responsibly if you want, and if you're of age. So drinking, or social interaction, or just to shake things up. So if you can provide an entertaining and a stimulation to him as a person, or if he for unassertive people, he's probably gonna want to study you and see if he can break you and see how far he can push your emotional limits before you leave. And he's gonna keep pushing boundaries, so he's probably gonna insult you, probably make jokes that are insulting. So he's gonna toy with you. He's gonna toy with your emotions. Other things like entertainment wise, that's probably most likely his entertainment is gonna come from needing that source of validation and needing resources and anything like that. Now, those are the 3 things that he's looking for pretty much all the time, anytime he's around people, and if they can bring in those 3 things. Otherwise, he's not gonna have much to do with you. He's probably gonna move on and get away from you as quick as he can. So, okay, I touched on it a little bit, but his preferred targets, his preferred, quarry, or preferred, prey, that he's gonna go for, like people that he's definitely gonna gravitate towards, are people who are definitely unassertive. So he can easily, get you to do things without you protesting, or without you, putting up many boundaries, and he can get you to go along with things easily. And easily manipulated people. So people who may not be emotionally equipped to handle him, and people like him. So if you've gone through like a big life change and you're working out your emotions, those people could be considered easily by him to be easily manipulated. People who have a hard time controlling their emotions or emotional reaction to insults, he's gonna gravitate towards. That's one of the things he likes to do, is he likes to see explosive reactions. He likes to get a rise out of people. He's not gonna have a hard time manipulating you, but if you put up a little bit of a fight, he'll probably, sort of switch through narcissistic and predatory tactics of reeling you in, like dangling sort of a prize that you might want, or he'll, make something up, make some bullshit up. Or if, you're in a committed relationship, if you don't want to do something and he wants you to do something with him, and let's say you get married to him. So if you really want that marriage to work, and he knows it, he's gonna want to keep you. He's gonna keep you around for as long as he can, and he's gonna use what he can to get you to do things. So he'll say some examples, like, let's say you don't wanna go out, and you tell him, I don't really want to go out tonight, and if you have like a fundamentalist mindset where you have to do what your husband says. Like, if you're a woman with a fundamentalist mindset, you have to do what your husband says because God wants you to do what your husband says. He's probably going to bring that up and say, okay, but, God will be mad at you if you don't want to do this. So, that's fine. You can do that. But just know that I'm going to be upset and God's going to be upset. Now, obviously, it doesn't really matter. He doesn't care if it doesn't matter if he's upset, obviously. But to someone with a fundamentalist views, they could be, easily persuaded to just go along with it and go out, drinking, partying, or whatever he wants. If he wants to see a movie that you don't think you're gonna like, or it's in a genre you're not gonna like, he's gonna say, okay, but marriage is all about compromise. So I've given up so much for you. So, you can do this one thing for me. And he's gonna recycle that over and over and over. So when you think of someone who's level-headed, you think of someone who's, if things start, if they're having a bad day, like, just little things, like, maybe someone cut them off in traffic, or maybe they spilled a drink, or maybe they're, maybe they got chewed out by the boss for being incompetent fools. Or maybe they didn't get a position that they wanted in a project because they were incompetent and fucking stupid. So maybe they're having a bad day. But you know, they can keep a level head. They're not gonna have explosive reactions. From 20 years, that he is definitely not a level-headed person. He will let the littlest things get to him, and he will flip the fuck out. Growing up, actually, this is one of the more defining moments. Well, there are two defining moments where I saw his explosive reactions to the littlest things that happened, that, you know, didn't go his way. So, growing up, my mother, who is currently, you know, married to him, she's a working woman, and when I was young, I needed, you know, help doing, I was a child, so for like once in his life, he had to get me up and get me ready for school, and make sure I had breakfast, so then I wouldn't, you know, pass out from, you know, low blood sugar. So the easiest thing that he probably could do was pour a glass of apple juice, and so he poured the apple juice, obviously, and then it's the morning, so I'm gonna give him a little bit of leeway in saying he's probably a little bit tired at this point, still waking up, and the apple juice, he spills the apple juice on the floor, and he spills it on the end table, and it goes on the floor, and he flips out. He just throws the cup and what's left in the cup and just smacks it off the end table. What's left in the cup is now on the curtains at the time, and on the walls and on the floor. He cannot handle, you know, the littlest thing. He flips the fuck out. And he doesn't come back and clean it up like an adult, you know, like when you learn how to, you know, be independent and mature and have mature reactions to things like that. You know, if you mess up, you come and clean it up. And he leaves it there, so. And the curtains that were in the house that I was living at the time were stained with that apple juice, and the walls, I don't think those ever got cleaned, because he didn't say anything to his wife at the time, probably because he felt like a failure when he had an affair with, you know, a woman, with another woman, and his friend, the people he thought he could, you know, easily manipulate and get him on his side, and, you know, respect him and be really, really validating and loving and say, oh, it's okay that you know, fucked up, and, you know, kind of broke a marriage contract, and, you know, slept with someone else. He thought he could, you know, he thought he could get his way and get that sort of, you know, applause and a trophy for, you know, fucking up. And me, having a proper sense of loyalty and, you know, respect for the victims that he's manipulating. You know, kind of, you know, didn't think as high as he would want, and, you know, made a comment walking past and be like, oh great, you're still alive. Like, you know, like it's a bitchy comment, because it's a kind of a bitchy comment being like, oh okay, well, you're still alive. And he flips the fuck out again, and he's like, okay. And as a retaliation, he isolates my devices and blocks off access to Wi-Fi. And because I wasn't gonna be bullied anymore by a piece of shit, I did what I wasn't mean. I wasn't gonna hurt him. Like, really, what the fuck, really? You think I could hurt you? I'm 4'2". Like, calm the fuck down. I simply said, turn it back on. I followed him around and I said, turn it back on. And that's all, that's really what I did. And I said, turn it back on, and then I'll leave you alone. And because he couldn't get his way, he couldn't just get me to leave him alone without, doing what I wanted. Then he threatened to call the cops. And this is back in 2018. So we didn't have well, we did. We had Black Lives Matter. But we didn't have the presence that we have now. So, he thought he could, scare me into, leaving him alone by threatening to call the cops and be like, okay, fine, you're black. I'm gonna call the cops on you. He's black too, so that doesn't really work out. Just because you grew up in a white neighborhood doesn't mean you're actually white. It doesn't mean racist cops are gonna think you're white because you think you're white and privileged. He is privileged because he has money, but he's not privileged for the color of his skin. He doesn't have the white privilege. He doesn't have white privilege. And he's dark skinned. He's not mixed. So people are gonna think that he's way more intimidating than I am, being only 4'2". So I call his bluff and be like, okay, fine, call the fucking cops. Go ahead, do it. Then he runs down to the basement and doesn't call the cops like he said he was. So I don't know. So with his excuses, he wanted to move to the South. Which, fine. Okay, there's nothing wrong with moving to the South. That's fine. His first thought was moving to Arizona. He really wanted to move to Arizona because he's afraid of the snow. He doesn't like the snow. It's really scary to him. I don't get it. I don't get why he's scared of the snow. It's snow. And he doesn't like season changing on him. Which, I mean, what is he now? 60 now? So he lived in Ohio for what, 60 years, and now he wants to move. Now he has enough money to move to the South, to the Deep South, actually, to the Deep South, because he doesn't like snow, or he's scared and he doesn't like snow. And he said he wasn't being challenged at his job that he was at, and that one of his colleagues was condescending. Now, he didn't tell me this directly because we don't fucking talk, because I can't deal with his bullshit. But he tells my mother that, you know, he really doesn't like working there. The people he has to work with and work under are really condescending. Well, I can understand where those people are coming from, because he's supposed to be an engineer. He's supposed to be able to, you know, fix computers. And oh, I put it outside. Oh no, it's right there. I have my current laptop, which I'm using right now, and then I had another laptop which I was having problems with at the time, and he took it apart, and then he put it all back together, and it was fucking, he couldn't even get the speakers to work. I had to plug in my headphones or earbuds every single time I wanted to hear something. And I watch videos online pretty much every single day. And the fact that I couldn't, you know, use the speakers, and they were working fine before he took it apart and then put it back together again, which is not really how you deal with a software problem. But that's another issue. Cause he's not, I don't know if he knows how to program or not. I don't think he does. So, yeah, I think his bosses were kind of right to put someone who's probably more knowledgeable about engineering, who know a little more about how to put computers back together correctly so that they work. Because if they did that for like a customer or anyone, or like a business, and he took it apart and then put it back together without listening to the instructions of higher ups, like, that would be such a fuck up on the company. He was a liability. But they can't fire him because, well, I guess they could fire him for that. But, you know, to prevent him from losing his job, they put someone else, you know, who is probably a little bit more knowledgeable. And maybe they weren't the nicest. Maybe they didn't coddle him because he's a fucking adult. They didn't coddle and be like, oh, it's okay if you mess up, but, you know, you can't do that right now. Like, it's okay if you put, you know, a screw where nuts and where a nut should be. Like, oh my god. Like, oh, it's okay. Like, yeah. But you're not gonna get that. That's not the real world. Like, you have, like, there's obviously definitely there are definitely ways of talking to people who are, you know, predatory and not predatory, and people you just don't like, but you have to work with. And maybe he was condescending. Maybe he was condescending because he knew how to do it, but he was just fucking up every single time. So, you know, quitting a job because you have to work under more knowledgeable people. Well, okay, that's kind of an explosive reaction, don't you think? Maybe just learn how to do things the correct way and not the ways you want to do them. This is just a theory. Another reason why he moved was more people started talking about him, how he truly acts and how he truly is, and then more prominent people, you know, in the community were talking about him and how he was. Actually, how he was, and not like they weren't feeding into his narrative. More people started, you know, becoming more aware of who he is as an actual person instead of the character he played and it was harder to find resources, sex, and entertainment in that current landscape. Another reason why he wanted to move was because of the landscape issue, because, like, yeah, they're, like, the people that are big in the community talking about him, like, that's gonna, kind of rock the boat. That's gonna rock his boat, throw him overboard, and he'll drown. But if he moves to a different community, where he can more easily blend in with more people of color, he can easily, shift the blame to someone else and be like, oh no, that wasn't me. That was another guy. That was, I didn't do that. I didn't, no, that was not me. Yeah, he wanted diversity. No, he wanted to blend in. Like a chameleon. Like, that's not how that works. This is gonna be my last thing I want to talk about. Alright, so, remember how I said being caring and loving, he wants to put on that show of being loving and caring, mostly as a husband and a family man. Like, what the fuck? Yeah, whatever. You did one thing. You showed up. And then, now you want to act like a family man. Whatever. Like, he didn't help. He pretty much all the credit goes to my mother. She raised me. He sat on his ass pretty much day in, day out. Went to work day in, day out. Didn't do shit. So, loving, no. Caring, no. You have to put in work to actually care. So, being a caring husband after his affair, after his wife, instead of working on their marriage, instead of working on their marriage, where, rebuilding trust, and, when things, when normal people fuck up in a relationship and, want to recommit to a relationship, they take the time. A healthy response would be to take the time to rebuild that trust. Not to shake things up and be like, okay, fine, whatever, clear the board, let's do something else. No, you clear time out, and you take time to spend time and talk about issues that you need to address. Like work. Go to real couples counseling. Real. Talk about your issues. Don't be, this is, like, I fucked up, but it's not my fault. My advice to women that he's most likely going to encounter and try to seduce, just don't talk to him. Walk away. Don't do it. Because I've seen what it does. I've seen what happens. Just don't do it. You don't want that in your life. To his coworkers that have to deal with him, I'm so sorry. Like, I feel bad for you. I mean, I can't really do much. The only advice I can say is, focus on work. Don't talk to him. Don't really pay him no mind. Just, don't get in deep. Just talk about work things. Talk about projects that are, happening right now. Don't talk about your family. Don't talk about your history. Don't talk about anything but work. And if you don't have anything to do, you don't have anything to really, talk about besides work, just don't talk to him. That's my advice. You're not going to be rude. It's not rude to not talk to people. You just don't have anything to say. You say, okay, well, sorry, I can't talk now. Just excuse yourself politely and say, sorry, I can't talk right now. And if you do encounter him and he kind of catches you off guard, just be assertive. Just gotta be assertive in that one moment, because that's gonna throw him off. He obviously, if he's coming on strong to anybody, like mostly women, if he's coming on strong, it's probably because he thought he could manipulate you, and he thought he could easily manipulate you, and he thought he could, get those 3 things out of you really easily. I can also tell you that if he picks up that you are getting advice from other people, he's probably gonna, he's going to say, okay, well, fine, give me a chance. Don't give him a chance. Because people like him, one, don't deserve chances. Because all he's going to do is, he's going to make your life worse. And if you're getting advice from someone else, sorry, I kind of went off and veered off in a different direction there. But if he can tell that you're getting advice from someone else, or getting advice from any other video or source, and it could be about him or people like him, he's a pathological liar. So he's gonna lie and say he didn't do those things, it was taken out of context, or he's gonna say pretty much anything that will make him look good and make him look like a victim. And he's not a victim. He's not a victim of circumstances. He is a victim of his own actions. He chose to make every single action. Every single action he makes is calculated. So he chose to have an affair. He chose to try to bluff his way out of getting people to leave him alone. He chose to be petty and break someone's glasses and put them in danger. He chose not to pay for those glasses. He chose to use his wife for sex, entertainment, and resources. He chose all those things based on his own mental calculations, and if he thought he could get his way. So once again, do not trust Darrin Ammons.